The worst my binging ever got was when I was in the best shape of my life. I was at the lowest weight I'd been since I was a teenager. I was tracking my food, I was going to the gym, I was doing everything right. But I was also binging pretty much every single week. And the worst part wasn't the binging itself, it was the shame and the guilt that came after. It was waking up the next morning and saying for the 1000th time, that was the last time. I would make new rules, new restrictions, just anything to prevent myself from binging again. But you guessed it, this never helped. I got so wrapped up in the idea that my body would look better if I just stopped binging that I didn't really see that all the restriction was what was causing my binging. So in this video, I want to help you also stop the binging just like I did, and I'm gonna walk you through every step I took to fix my relationship with food, because that's what I now truly believe is the real issue when you're binging, is you have a shitty relationship with food. Let's go back to, I think it was Christmas 2022. I was feeling particularly bad about how much food I had. I remember laying in bed and my stomach was hurting so much from all the food I ate, and I was chewing on a Rennie. And something in me decided that that was truly the last time. I would not feel like this ever again. So when the new year came around, my New Year's resolution wasn't to lose weight. It was in fact to stop binging. Now, of course, at the time, I still I didn't realize that my obsessive need to lose weight was a problem. My resolution to fix my binging still stemmed from wanting to fix my body. So the first thing I did was I started paying attention to why I was actually binging. So I was trying to figure out my triggers. So I asked myself the question whenever the urge came up, why do I want to binge? And figuring out why I was binging actually changed literally everything. My answer was the same every single time. I was either incredibly stressed or incredibly sad or angry. So for me, it was always an extremely negative emotion. I was binging because binging and food made me feel good. And here's where the tracking comes into play. When I was tracking my food, I was being extremely restrictive, right? It was X amount of calories a day maximum, and if you're under that, that's good. Anything below that max amount, amazing. Of course, things like chocolate and snacks were banned. I was not allowed to eat that stuff. So whenever a binge did come up, guess what I was eating? Correct, all the food that I had banned and told myself I wasn't allowed to eat. And then after each and every binge, I would feel so guilty because of course I failed again, of course my diet is ruined, of course I'm gonna gain weight after this. And then I would also track these binges, and seeing the amount of calories that I was eating was just sending me into even more of a spiral. The next few days after that, I was even more restrictive, and I would starve myself so that those calories from that binge didn't count. And again, you guessed it, that just created a vicious cycle of binging, restricting, binging, restricting. It wasn't good. Is this sounding a little bit familiar? The reality is, I didn't really need food. It just made me feel good, and I didn't know how else to feel good. So the main thing I did after I figured out why I was binging was figuring out some better coping mechanisms. Whenever I had the urge to binge, I stopped myself at first and really asked myself, what do I need right now? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling angry? Maybe take a step back, and maybe talking to a friend will help. Maybe writing it all down and just venting will help. Or maybe going for a walk or going to the gym is a better use of your energy right now. And if none of that helped, I would still allow myself to binge. And something funny started happening. After the first few months, my binges, not only was there more time in between every binge, my binges also became smaller. So the amount of food I would eat wasn't as massive anymore. I think for me, what really happened there was I no longer had any foods on my banned list. During a week or just my normal life, I would eat whatever I wanted because I wasn't tracking, because my focus wasn't on losing weight. So then when I did binge, I didn't feel the need to buy every single chocolate bar that I hadn't had in weeks because I'd had them that week. So I didn't have those cravings. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense, but that's just how I felt. So when I did binge, it just wasn't as massive. And instead of feeling guilty and ashamed about it, I would just analyze it and just go over everything that happened and see what I could do instead the next time. And this worked. I think for me, the last time I binged, I want to say it was about 2 years ago when my dog had to go to the vet and he needed a procedure. I don't know how you say that word. He needed something done, so he had to go under anesthesia, and I was incredibly stressed because I have some history with vets and I don't like it. Okay, so I binged on that day, but because I knew why, I didn't feel so bad about it. And honestly, I'm not even sure that was the last time I binged. My binging went from every single week to maybe every few months at that point. And it's still such a weird feeling to not really know the last time that I binged, but that for me shows that, hey, everything I did actually worked. Now, if you're thinking that none of this actually stems from not trying to lose weight, then listen to the next part. A lot of my binging episodes actually stemmed from the fact that I was unhappy with my body. I was absolutely obsessed with trying to lose weight and trying to look lean because I was convinced that I would be happy if I was leaner. But something that happened to me was every time I would hit my goal weight, I would then move the goalpost. I would still be unhappy with how I looked. And because I was so unhappy about how I looked, I would get obviously stressed or unhappy and sad, which then led to binging. And one of the things that also happened was anytime I did get to where I wanted, I would drop my diet because I wasn't making lifestyle changes. I was dieting. So as soon as I got to that weight that I thought was my dream weight, I would start eating the way I was eating before, which of course, as you can imagine, led to gaining weight. And then I would feel bad about failing and it would just be this vicious cycle. So when I stopped trying to lose weight, all of that just disappeared. I was no longer in this vicious cycle. I was just eating normal. The weirdest part of it all was during this time. So I want to say this took me about a year to fully say that I fixed my relationship with food. But during this time, I did not gain any weight. My weight fluctuated for like a 2 kilogram change. But that change, that was my normal weight anyway. I fully expected to just balloon, and by the time I realized why I was binging, I had also accepted that already because I wasn't tracking anymore, right? So in my head, I was like, okay, I'm eating all this food now, so guaranteed I'm gonna gain weight. But I didn't. Instead, because I was fixing my relationships with food, I just learned how to eat a balanced diet, and I allowed myself to have snacks and chocolate whenever I wanted. And I realized that I actually didn't want them as often anymore because I was allowed to have it. It's such a counterintuitive feeling, but it really changed how I looked at food. And now this is a part where people will tell you to, just don't have it in your house, or just stop eating when you're binging. But it's not that simple. When you're binging, like for me at least, it doesn't matter what you have in your house. I would go to my fridge and just grab whatever there is and just eat it all. It didn't even have to taste good. I just had to eat. On top of that, I have a car. I can drive to the shops and just buy whatever I want. Oh, just don't buy it. Yeah, when you're struggling with binging, saying something like, just don't do it, it doesn't work, okay? Your mind, you're not thinking clearly. All you can think about is eating food and feeling, I guess, better, even though it doesn't really make you feel better. It feels like shit. My stomach would sometimes literally feel like it would explode. And then the reflux and just the shame and guilt after, it's not a good feeling, right? I sometimes had to literally put soap on my food to stop myself from eating it. That's how bad it was. So telling me to just stop, like that advice, that just doesn't help. Now, does all of this mean that you will have the same experience as me? No. For me, when I look back at my binging, I sometimes still feel like I wasn't that extreme. But for somebody else, like your binging might stem from other reasons. Like my binging was very emotionally driven. So if you're like me, then yes, doing what I did is probably going to help you. I still fully believe the first thing I tell people when they say they struggle with binging is to stop trying to lose weight, stop tracking your food, focus on fixing your relationship with food first. But if you're not like me and your binging is from something else, I'm not going to be able to help you because I cannot relate to you. And some people, their binging is far more extreme than what mine was. And you might need to get help from a therapist because there are therapists who focus on binge eating. So you might need help with that. But if you relate to my story, then doing all of these things might help you, but I don't want to promise anything, okay? I'm just a random girl on YouTube who is sharing her binging story. So, quick recap, what did I actually do to fix my binging? First of all, I found out what my triggers were. So you can ask yourself things like, what's going on in your life? Why do I feel the need to binge? Am I just bored? Am I really hungry? What's going on there? Then I focused on better ways to deal with that. So like I mentioned, for me, it was stress and like heightened emotions, mostly negative. So I found things that helped me feel better rather than just eating. Yes, it's going to be hard, and no, it won't be fixed immediately. It's not a quick fix, it takes effort, but I promise you it is so worth it. I still sometimes get so amazed by how free I feel from food now. Obviously, I'm not like perfect. I still have days where maybe I'm super stressed and I do reach for food, but it's just not a binge anymore. I just don't have those insanely massive binging episodes anymore, and it feels so good. Food is not bad. Yes, some foods are higher in calories than others, but something being high in calories doesn't mean it's bad, okay? And that's like the main thing we also have to remember when you're trying to fix your relationship with food. Food is fuel for your body. You need it to be alive. So let go of all of these negative thoughts surrounding food. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you struggle with binging, I'm so sorry. I know how you feel. I know it sucks, but it can be fixed. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.